All right, today we are going to dig into an idea that sounds, well, completely backwards. We're going to talk about how the very B vitamins you might be taking for nerve pain, yep, B6 and B12, could actually be making things worse. We'll find out why that happens, and I'll reveal the one really critical B vitamin you might be missing. So, let's jump right in.
It sounds crazy, right? The idea that a vitamin, something that's supposed to be healthy, could act like a poison to your nerves. But for so many people who are dealing with that tingling, that numbness, or that burning feeling, this is their frustrating reality. The answer isn't what you'd expect, and it sets up a pretty fascinating mystery.
So that's what we're going to do. We are going to get to the bottom of this whole puzzle. We're going to look at why some of the most common supplements just don't work, how they can actually build up to toxic levels, and what you can do to give your nerves the right kind of support.
And this is where we run into what I like to call the vitamin paradox. You're doing everything right. You're taking your supplements for your health, but that nerve pain, it either doesn't get better or it actually gets worse. It's confusing, and honestly, it's got to be maddening.
Okay, this quote right here. This is the key that unlocks the entire mystery. It's not what you take, it's what gets absorbed and converted. If you remember just one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. This idea changes everything about how you should look at your supplements. And maybe this sounds familiar to you. You've heard that B6 and B12 are crucial for nerve signals, for building that protective coating around your nerves, the myelin sheath. So you take them day in and day out, but the symptoms just don't go away. So what is going on?
And here it is. Here's the big secret. For a whole lot of people, it's not a vitamin deficiency problem, it's a vitamin processing problem. Your body's getting the raw materials, but for some reason, it just can't do the work to turn them into something it can actually use. Let's break down what that means. Okay, let's look at vitamin B6 first. The stuff in most multivitamins is a synthetic form called pyridoxine. Now think of this like a locked treasure chest. Your body, specifically your liver, is supposed to have a key to open it. That key is the conversion process that turns it into the active form, P5P. That's the treasure your nerves need. But if your liver can't make that key, the pyridoxine just floats around, builds up, and can actually become toxic.
So what stops that key from being made? Well, a bunch of really common things. A sluggish liver, not enough bile, chronic inflammation, big-time blood sugar issues like insulin resistance, or even just being low on magnesium. Any of these can stop your body from making that all-important P5P. The B6 is in your system, but your body can't unlock it. And guess what? We see almost the exact same story with B12. The cheapest, most common form out there is something called cyanocobalamin, and it is completely useless on its own. Your body has to convert it into the active form, methylcobalamin, and that whole conversion process has a name, methylation. And just like we saw with B6, all sorts of things can get in the way of that. A lot of people have a genetic quirk that makes methylation really inefficient. But even if you don't, things like inflammation in your gut or even just low stomach acid can totally shut down this conversion. So again, you're taking the vitamin, but your body can't flip the on switch. So if the common versions of B6 and B12 are so problematic, where do we even turn? Well, it turns out there's a hero in this story that's been overlooked for way too long. A vitamin that is absolutely essential for your nerves to function. And here it is. Vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. You could really call this the nerve vitamin. It's the fuel for the little energy factories, the mitochondria, that power every single one of your nerve cells. Without enough B1, your nerves literally start to starve to death. And you can see how this nasty domino effect happens. First, you've got low B1 levels. That means the mitochondria in your nerves run out of gas. Then, toxic stuff like lactic acid starts to build up. And finally, the nerve cell just doesn't have the energy it needs to repair its protective myelin coating. That leads to damage, especially in those really long nerves that go all the way down to your feet and hands. But there's a little catch. Regular B1 is water-soluble, and your nerves, well, they're wrapped in that fatty myelin sheath. It's like trying to mix oil and water. It just doesn't work well. So, scientists came up with something brilliant called benfotiamine. It's a fat-soluble version of B1. Think of it like a tiny submarine that can cruise right through that fatty barrier and deliver B1 directly to where your nerves are screaming for it. Now, it's really important to know that this isn't about just finding one magic bullet. To get real, lasting results, we have to look at the whole system and bring in some very important supporting players. One of the superstars here is alpha-lipoic acid, or ALA for short. It's an amazing antioxidant that helps protect those mitochondria we just talked about. But maybe even more important, it helps your body become more sensitive to insulin. And since we know that high insulin and blood sugar problems are a huge cause of nerve damage, ALA can be a total game changer. And we absolutely cannot forget about your body's own support crew. You need good, healthy bile flow from your liver to absorb fat-soluble stuff, like that benfotiamine we mentioned. A healthy gut is filled with microbes that actually make B vitamins for you. And magnesium is a critical helper in all these processes, but high insulin levels can actually block your body from absorbing it. See? It's all connected. Okay, so that was a lot of information, right? How do we take all of this and turn it into something we can actually use? Let's put it all together into a simple, clear plan to really support your nerve health. First things first, and this is a really important safety note. When we're talking about vitamin B6, more is definitely not better. Even if you're using the good P5P form, you really don't want to go over 50 milligrams a day, unless you're working directly with a doctor who's keeping an eye on your levels. And here it is, your 6-point action plan. Number 1, use the right forms. That's P5P for B6, methylcobalamin for B12, and benfotiamine for B1. Number 2, keep that B6 under 50 milligrams. 3, do things to support your bile flow so you can absorb everything. 4, eat fermented foods to take care of your gut. 5, get your insulin in check, maybe with a low-carb approach. And finally, number 6, think about adding in some alpha-lipoic acid. So let's bring it all the way back to that big idea we started with, because this quote really says it all. The issue for so many people isn't that they aren't getting enough vitamins, it's that their body has a bottleneck, a problem with processing and activating them. That's a huge shift in how we think about this. And that's really the question I want to leave you with. As you think about your own health, are you just focused on adding more stuff in, or are you looking at how you can help your body work better with what it already has? Asking yourself that question, that just might be the key to finally getting some relief.